actually.
Okay. Yep, that is live. So, episode 19 of the Beyond Pixels podcast. Today we're talking about VRChat and mental health. So it's a bit more of a touchy subject. We're going to be talking pure facts and opinions, things like that. About how VRChat affects both positively and negatively. And if anyone has had any experience with that themselves in VRChat.
Does playing therapist count?
100% yes.
Then we'll see.
So, to start off, we all know VRChat has a very big drinking problem. Some people came to VRChat already with that problem. Some people came to VRChat and had never had a drink in their life, and now they drink every day. And there's all sorts of in-betweens. But I think overall VRChat does increase average alcohol consumption.
I think part of that, and this might be me bullshitting, but I think part of that just has to do with how your brain is affected while both inebriated and in VR. Because it's like a completely different experience because you're seeing a completely different thing already. How does your brain process that?
But it also comes in where, where if you are in VRChat, then you're not alone. And a lot of people feel like they can only be an alcoholic if they drink by themselves. They don't think that social drinking could ever be alcoholism, which is false.
Yeah.
No, that's 100% false. I wanted to know, where do you think peer pressure plays into it? Because I do believe that there is a high level of peer pressure, at least, to encourage people to drink.
I'd say it's a very heavy-handed involvement.
I would say that there is definitely. I think peer pressure definitely has a big handle on actually I don't know how else to say it, but encouraging the alcoholism on the game.
Yeah.
I would say peer pressure definitely has a large portion to do it. Even though we were taught as kids, it's just like, peer pressure leads to drugs and alcohol. Don't do that. Mr. T back on the television in the commercials saying, "Don't do that, fool." All that stuff from the 80s and 90s. T
model saying, "Nah, it's cool." and that kind of comes back to what I was saying earlier. Is like, you should try this. It's a different experience in VR.
Yeah, I'd definitely say VRChat just opens the possibility to feel less bad about doing not healthy things. If that makes sense. Drinking, you don't feel as bad if you're sitting there at your computer by yourself, not in VR, and you're drinking and you're drinking and you're drinking and you're not talking to anyone. You'll look back on that and be like, "Damn,
I'm a piece of shit.
I've got a problem." Yeah, I've got a problem. Whereas if you're in VR and it feels like you're at a physical bar, out drinking, socializing with people, or if you feel like drinking alcohol opens you up more to talk to people, then it's a rabbit hole. You end up meeting the people, and I've definitely gone through this in VRChat. You end up meeting people that drink every day, drink heavy every day, and they just drag you along for the ride. And then you end up going down the rabbit hole of, drinking on the weekends, every weekend, that's fine. Then having a drink or two here in the middle of the week, that's fine. Then having a couple drinks every day.
Twice a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also have these people out there that are... You have those people out there that are just have the mentality of, hey, it's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world, so fuck it.
Exactly.
Even if it's 8 a.m. where they are.
Why did you put your head down when he said that, Sobi?
Is there something you're not telling
no
us?
reason. No, of course not. I was
you have
muting my mic.
Yeah, sure.
I will say, before VRChat, I didn't
like
drink
whiskey?
as much. What'd you say?
Why does your mic smell like whiskey?
Oh, I plead the fifth. No, I will
Jameson
say before
here, officer.
VRChat, I'd never drank. I didn't drink as much. I mean, me and my old roommates, we did have house parties, and I did drink during the house parties, but I never truly liked the way I felt the next morning, just because, we would drink a lot because it's a house party, and the next morning you would feel like crap.
Complete and total shit.
But ever since VRChat, I mean, I had extreme social anxiety, so I use alcohol as a way to loosen up, and unfortunately, I do drink quite a bit in VR. Pretty much, it's one of those situations where once I do end up freely able to talk, break out of my shell, I just don't stop drinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you a follow-up on that. Do you feel like you drink more by yourself or more when you're around other people that are drinking?
I drink a lot more around other people because most people around me are drinking as well, and there's always that one person that will yell, "All right, everybody, let's take a shot." So,
exactly.
Okay, so
if I'm
the
by
reason
myself,
I bring that,
I slowly drink.
yeah, so the reason I bring that up is because, I mean, go back to my past live streams back on YouTube from 2016, 2017. I was playing Skyrim and Fallout. I would buy a 6-pack of Pabst every single night, and just that single 6-pack of Pabst would last me till 5 a.m. Whereas when I started playing Call of Duty with friends and I started, it's just, I would stay up a little bit longer. I would drink a little bit more. I went from 1 6-pack to 2 6-packs when I started playing Call of Duty with friends back in 2014 to 2016. And then when I when I would play single player games by myself, I basically just, I didn't drink as much. In fact, I slowed down. But then I started playing VRChat, and then I realized that my drinking actually increased. I went from buying, a 6-pack's not going to last, with these people. All right, I need to get like a 24-pack or a 30-pack to last. And so it's like, I don't have to be awake till
beer.
So yeah, it's just like it definitely is like it definitely is a social thing as opposed to like, so do I think like, is alcoholism where you're drinking the same amount regardless if you're by yourself or if you're with other people? That's what I want to know, is just like, what makes you an alcoholic? Do you feel the need to drink? Do you feel the need to actually constantly have a beverage next to you? Or is it just like is it a measure of how much you drink?
So I think the label really should be put at, and I mean it's a varied label. So it's what is healthy, what is acceptable, and at what point is it affecting your communication and friendships.
Exactly.
So like obviously drinking once a week on a Friday night, yeah, that's perfectly fine and acceptable. I think it's really when you start to skip out on responsibilities and have other issues due to it, that it's really you've been hit mentally with the alcohol at that point.
Yeah, when you're comparing whether or not you're buying 3 more 12-packs to paying your rent is when it becomes a huge issue.
Definitely.
Well, yeah, when it's a financial burden, I could understand that. But what about if it becomes like a health issue, like in terms of like your liver starts to really give you problems, or you can't keep anything down, I know that there's I heard a story of a man like years ago. This was several years ago, but he was a chronic alcoholic. He would down 1 bottle of Jack a day. 1 bottle of Jack a day. And what this did was it actually led to him having stomach issues. It was actually consistent stomach issues where he couldn't eat food properly, like he couldn't keep any food down properly.
Yeah.
So, and for him, it wasn't, he said, his own words, he said, it wasn't that big of a deal because all it did was make me tired. It made me sleepy. It didn't make me drunk. And I always stayed at home. I never once left the house after opening the bottle.
Yeah, the problem is he's not thinking about how much of an impact that's doing to his system, let alone just his liver.
So I mean, I guess there could be some level of ignorance in that department because I mean, not everyone's a science. We're not doctors. We don't understand the anatomy of the human body as well as we should. Especially my own body. I don't understand how my liver works or my kidneys. I don't understand all that. I don't understand how important they are.
Yeah.
I know they're important, but
I think the other issue too is like, never mind the social aspect for a second. Sorry, I know we're talking about something else, not necessarily related to alcohol, but it's about
no, it's related to
how
alcohol.
you can escape.
Yep. Yeah, VRChat definitely gives you the escape from duties, obligations, everything. So it's definitely a disconnect for some people from their real life, emotionally and mentally.
Why not add
well,
a substance on top of it?
I have more I want to say on that, but I'm going to save that for later.
Yeah. So I mean, that's probably the, in my opinion, probably the worst of the worst for mental health and VRChat. It's the drinking and the other substances that a lot of people use well in VRChat. Those, it's definitely a negative.
Right.
They like, so you know, it's funny. You have all these drinking and partying groups, but you don't have any. I don't personally see any groups that are just, hey, let's hang out and have fun and not have any alcohol involved.
Or at least they're few and far in between.
Yeah. It's pretty much like if you're hanging out with people in VRChat, it's almost expected that you're participating in drinking or smoking something.
Yeah. I've been to quite a few of those, and they definitely encourage the whole have some kind of inebriating substance on you thing.
Yeah, a lot of them even, like, they'll say, oh, you don't have to if you don't want to, but then they will basically single you out by saying, hey, everyone, take a drink.
Pretty much, yeah.
And some of them will be like, oh, if you're not drinking, then and you're not smoking, then just drink water. And someone will always spout out, oh, water's for whatever, and basically call you a fucking name for it. And it definitely just shoves the bad ideas, and it's not good. Mm-hmm. Especially like in VRChat, there is a lot of younger, very easily influenced people, and there's a lot of people with social issues, and they all want to fit in. So yeah, I'm gonna do what everyone's telling me to do. I'm gonna do what everyone else is doing. Addie, no.
Yeah, that goes back to what I said earlier, peer pressure. I mean, peer pressure is definitely a large part of it.
How much water did you drink today, dog?
Yeah, I wanted to go on record as
I
saying
drank a lot.
We're not shaming people for
I gotta
doing
take
this.
him out to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
But if you're trying to force people into doing the same thing you're doing, you're the asshole.
No, it's like what I do. I'll go ahead and give everyone a good solution to that. Just do what I do. If everyone wants to take a shot, but you don't, take the headset off and step away for a few minutes. Go sit on the toilet, look at Twitter, look at goofy memes, or go outside and have a cigarette. do whatever. Just step away for a few minutes and then come back and just be like, I'm sorry, I was away. I was fucking AFK. You know, I'll take my shot and then just gesture at that point. No one, you're not required. You're not required to owe these people anything in terms of drinking or in terms of like, you know, indulging in their activities. If you don't feel like doing it at that point in time, you say, "Hey, man, go fuck yourself with a wire brush. I'm gonna stay here in my corner."
This isn't college. We don't do that shit here.
No, I mean, for crying out loud. I was gonna, if you can afford a computer that can play this game and afford all the VR shit. That tells me that you're at least an abled adult that can pay their taxes. So you should be able to make good quality decisions at that point. So just learn to step away. Don't let them fucking get under your skin. That's my advice.
Yeah. And obviously, we're not saying stop drinking in VR, but definitely control how much you do.
Well, like for example, like my birthday is this coming Monday, and the only thing I have planned for it is a YouTube broadcast. I'm not planning on getting VR unless they say, "Hey, we got something planned for you." I'm like, "Okay, what you got planned for me?" And if they tell me some shit or whatnot, all right, fine. Otherwise, I made no plans this year for my birthday. I'm an old fuck, and I'll be in the grave before all of you. So,
Well, you don't have a kid.
needless to say. Yeah, exactly. I don't have a kid.
Just because I have a kid doesn't mean I'm living any healthier. If anything, I'm stressed out more. But
dude, how much
that's a
gray?
different topic.
I want you to send me an IRL picture over Discord, and I'll send you one, and let's see who has more gray in their hair.
Game on, motherfucker.
Game on.
Okay, I'm back.
We'll dare to compare.
So that's the negatives mostly. We've talked about mostly the negatives of how peer pressure really draws into it in the social aspect.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of positives to VRChat and mental health.
Yeah.
It's an escape from your real life, your duties. So if you're, if you have social anxiety, things like that, it's a lot harder in real life to go to a social event, go somewhere, and not have problems from it. In VR, if you go to a world, there can be 3-4 people there, and you can feel fine. And if more people come, you can just leave.
Yeah.
Can't do that in real life.
More people coming in, there's another thing you can do. Just either block them or hide their avatar and mute them. That's it.
Yeah. There's
I know.
a lot.
Can't do that in real life either.
Nope.
Well, you can, but you would probably get arrested.
You'd probably be thrown in the slammer for quite a while.
Well, yeah, that would require me possessing a firearm at the time.
Oh, you can
Yeah.
I
go
live in Texas, so.
Or a pencil.
Oh yeah, maybe a switch. Maybe a switch.
pencil
would
Shut the
work,
fuck
too.
up, John Wick.
No, I do want to say
the
though,
one
you talked about the positive effects. I do want to ask because this one's going to be a long. I feel like this section is going to be a very long one. What do you think was the positive mental effects during, let's say, COVID lockdowns? Like during that period of time where people was not allowed to leave their homes, they couldn't interact with their friends. We had that was like one of the biggest spikes. That was one of the biggest spikes ever in VRChat. Like everyone was jumping in.
Yeah, it lets you.
So
do
what do you
that
think?
shit without
What
having to
positives?
risk
What
getting
positives
sick.
came out of that?
The positive there would 100% be that people were lacking the social interactions that they were used to for so long. So VRChat is the closest implementation of that over distance. Because you can always message people.
Even if
you
you're
can
not
always
a gamer,
message people.
VRChat was still a great social platform.
I don't consider VRChat a game. It's a social platform, completely.
Exactly.
It's not a game. It has games within it.
There are games in VRChat, but VRChat is not a game.
But anyway, just being able to.
I disagree with that, but
being able to get back in contact with people, look face to face, eye to eye, and voice. It's
wait, is that who I
lot.
think it is?
Yes, it is.
I didn't get the notif. Who's here?
It is King Cobra.
Cobra's here? I didn't get the.
Cobra's in the chat.
Oh, I thought he was jumping in. Hi, Cobra.
I'd kill for him to be here right now.
Does Cobra want to join us? I feel like he'd have a lot more insight.
He might. It'd be interesting if he did join.
I would kill
anyway.
him.
What was I going on about? Oh, yeah, during the COVID and the lockdowns, when people couldn't go outside, they were able to a point, continue their social interactions in VRChat and meet new people, have new experiences while they were stuck in their house. So that's definitely a good thing. But when it comes to like the negatives also, that brought a lot of kids into VRChat, and there's a lot of people that just don't sit well with that, don't like that, and
That's kind of a different matter. Also, sorry about the noise.
Well,
Wife just walked in.
It sort of threw a lot of people that used to use VRChat for general social interaction. It threw them out of VRChat because of the influx of younger people that they just don't get along with well, and they don't like to see them, talk to them, anything like that. Now that's
So, as for me, I didn't really use VRChat a lot during COVID. I'm not saying I was completely off VRChat. I, unfortunately, and I do complain about this because I was getting paid a very small amount, I had an essential job, so I had to work all through COVID. And I actually got sick with COVID twice doing that. But
Brother.
I did the small amount I was on VRChat, I did get to meet new people because there was like you all said, it almost skyrocketed overnight when the lockdown started. So more people were online that probably would never have tried it.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. I think I got on a year before the you know what.
Yeah, I've experienced VRChat long before that, and during and after. But during, I was also on the road. I wasn't home a lot, so I didn't really get to see the influx. I got to see the before and the after. I didn't get to see the during in VRChat.
Yeah. Let's just say I made a lot of friends during that time, and I don't see them as much anymore.
You know, that's funny because I was actually looking through some of my old friends and some of my old streams, and I found some people that I used to hang out with all the time, and they haven't been online on VRChat in 4 years.
Yeah.
And I mean so there's another strange thing about VRChat and how it ends up handling things. So IRL, if you meet someone, you exchange phone numbers, it's almost a guarantee that you can text them 2 years later, and most people are going to have the same phone number years and years later. There's going to be that handful that don't, but most people do. When it comes to VRChat, I have seen thousands of people that I'm friends with just disappear, never to be seen again. Some of them are on a new account, but it's impossible for me to ever get back in contact with them.
Yeah.
Because on the internet, you change your name, you've changed who you are, you've changed everything about you. The people that know you by a prior name will never see you. Yeah, and that definitely can't be a super great thing for some people.
Yeah,
and it's going to hit a lot of people.
It doesn't always come with an announcement, so you're just kind of flying under the radar at that rate.
Yeah, and also I think it comes from the time period in and of itself, because during COVID, it was really, just like VRChat was just really like a temporary substitute for social interaction during that time of lockdown, because eventually everyone was just like, eventually lockdown's going to be lifted. I can go back to hanging out with friends IRL. And I think that's where you saw the subtle drop in time. It wasn't because of the fact that they had no respect for the game, but this was just seen as like a temporary fix for their for them mentally, because they couldn't hang out with anyone in real life. They couldn't see their families, for crying out loud. That's how how bad it was. A lot of Christmases were canceled.
Yeah. Well, not just Christmases, Thanksgivings.
Thanksgiving, Halloween didn't happen.
Broader strokes, you know what we mean.
There were even a lot of conventions that people used to go meet up with their online friends that got canceled, and they didn't even get to go meet up with them, whether that was friends they met in VRChat or somewhere else. VRChat would sort of give that place that you could, to a point, meet up with them and hang out anyway.
Right.
Like realistically, meeting people IRL that you know in VRChat, it's not really that necessary. For most people, it really isn't super necessary, but I mean, other people VRChat's virtual. It's not the same as physically touching their skin or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Although even VR is
Well,
doing
for a
that
very
now.
small group of people. For a very small group of people,
Yeah.
they can still feel that, but...
Yeah, but overall, there's a disconnect between VR and the real life, the real world. And here's the fun thing. So people have a disconnect when they are not showing their actual face, not showing who they actually are, and are completely and totally disconnected. A lot of people will do and say things that they wouldn't do if they thought that they would see you again. They're gonna do crazy things. Like you go to a public black cat now, you see people running around screaming racial slurs, screaming all sorts of horrible things, telling people to do things that they definitely shouldn't be doing, all sorts of horrible things. And I don't believe those people would go and do that in person if it was directly to someone's face and they were making someone basically cry.
Unless they live in Florida, just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah, Florida man. Yeah, Florida man would do it.
Even then, most of these kids and the people going around screaming this thing, most of them wouldn't do it. Would not act the same way.
No, you know who actually agrees with you? You know who actually agrees with you and made that argument years ago was the original developer, or he wasn't he was on the development team, but he was like the lead for the team for Overwatch. It was Jeff Kaplan. Jeff Kaplan put out a video talking about the toxicity in Overwatch and saying, I've said mean things on the internet, but he actually came up with a really good analogy. He said, it's me if I'm driving in my car on the freeway and I get cut off by another car and that person in that car calls me a jerk even though I don't know who he is. There's a layer of anonymity to that where, it's just like I could call him a jerk back, but what's the point? It's like, at this point, I'm just looking for self-satisfaction at that point that I don't think we would actually do if we were exactly in the same room. Whereas if we're not, remove the freeway, remove the cars, if we were in the same room, he wouldn't say that to me if we were standing face to face. So I do believe that, the internet in and of itself creates a little bit of that mentality. And just the layer of anonymity absolutely contributes to that. Because of the fact that it's just like, if nobody knows your actual name or who you are, there's no IRL repercussions for what you say or what you do. So that's why these kids can run around in VRChat public world screaming racial slurs, because it's like, what's going to happen? They're going to call their parents. All right, do you know the phone number? Do you know their names? No, you don't.
Yeah.
It's just like, they can get away with this stuff. What's the worst thing that could happen? They get banned. And then they go to another game and they do the same thing over and over again.
Or they just make a different account even.
Do that too, or run a VPN if they're smart enough. But I don't think if you're 12 years old, you probably don't even know how to run a calculator.
Don't give the Zoomers too much credit circuitry.
I mean, let's be freaking real here. There are so many ads out there for NordVPN free trial, other VPN free trial, that these kids can go download an app real quick and have a week of free VPN. So really, the argument is not knowing how to work it.
The smart ones are usually the nice ones.
Not always. Sometimes the smart ones are the worst.
They're either smart or diabolical, but not necessarily troll.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, Professor Moriarty was incredibly smart, and that man could have used his knowledge for good. Instead, he chose to actually want to then make the whole world around himself, rather than, expanding, making the world a better place. Keep that in mind.
Yep.
It's like comparing Tesla to Moriarty at that point.
Well, Tesla's better.
I don't even know who that is.
Tesla was basically the inventor behind
Nikola Tesla.
Alternate.
He's talking about the guy who made the...
I know Tesla, I'm talking about the other guy.
Okay. Elon Musk.
Oh, Moriarty? He's Sherlock Holmes. He's the opposite of Sherlock Holmes. He's Sherlock Holmes' rival.
We gotta have a movie night.
Okay, I don't.
My dude, do you fucking read books, asshole?
No.
I will
have
read you a
not
bedtime
read
story
since
every
high
night
school.
if I have
Who has
to.
time to fucking read?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna be
read
37. I've got
documentation.
time. I've got all the time in the world.
I only read documentation for programming languages and programs that I'm working with. That's about it. That's as far as I really get in reading. I mean, it's pretty high-end,
I'm
intelligent
imagining-
things that I'm reading, but it's not like
I'm sorry.
fiction or anything like that.
I'm just
Dude,
imagining if you ever have a kid, I'm imagining you reading how to code Python to them before bed.
Legitimately, yes. 100%, I will do that.
Unironically, today, I asked my sister for my birthday if she would buy me a copy of a book about the first Battle of Vietnam. Gives you an idea of how boring of a fucking asshole I am, so yeah, don't sub to me.
They're coming out of the trees.
Well, I'll put it like
Oh
this.
boy.
It's not bad to have, like, reading into more, shall we say, less than being about, like, a work ethic, but more about being a recreational. Because that's what reading used to be. It was a recreational activity. It was not used, usually.
Yes
Also, Vampy,
and
you're pretty
no.
quiet.
Basically, since writing,
I mean,
when writing was first invented,
precedence.
basically, it was almost entirely just the higher ups, the people with money that knew how to read and write, and it wasn't for leisure; it was for business. And in the very beginning,
yeah,
the leisure
I get what
of
you're saying.
reading and writing came long after that,
Hold on, let me
and then the
get my
lower-
kid show started.
poor people, serfs, things like that, then they learned how to read and write to
That's enough, John.
be able to work for the rich people. It sort of just flips at a certain point.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But,
Yeah,
it's
the
just-
original-
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that reading in between then and now has mostly been a largely recreational activity for relaxing after work. And dealing
I
with
would be
paperwork and shit like that.
I believe you are completely off on that.
I disagree with Turtle.
Most people don't really just sit down and read a book every day, or most people probably read less than 3 books a year.
I'm reading,
Actually,
like,
yeah, no, a lot of people
Most
like to
people.
read. We just don't.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I came from. You have to understand, when I was in my early 20s, I didn't have enough money to afford a phone, like like the new smartphones that came out in 2007. I couldn't afford
Yeah.
those because they were selling at like extremely high prices, and I was incredibly broke and unemployed at the time. So what was my only salvation? I had books. So what I do? I read. I just read books the entire time to keep myself occupied. And for me, it was actually great because I could escape, whatever was going on in reality and just sink myself into whatever novel I had in front of me. Like, I'm just going to say Lord of the Rings, for example. I read the 3 Lord of the Rings books, and, as I'm reading them, I'm not even thinking about what's going on in the hallway. I'm not thinking about what's going on in the parking lot, nothing like that. I'm just literally focused on my own book.
Right.
And that's really what
Yeah,
books are a medium to escape reality, much the same way VRChat is a medium to escape reality. And you could say that about television, you could say that about movies, you could say that about radio, magazines,
So
comic
really,
books.
you could
Games,
almost make the argument then
exercise.
that books are like reading a word of fiction, a fictional book. It's a well thought out story to make you think and feel a certain way. Well, VRChat, the story creates itself as you're playing and interacting with other players.
Well, sure, you're talking about something that's more interactive, whereas something like a book, let's say like a pre-written book by, let's say Lord of the Rings, like I mentioned earlier, that's already set in stone. Whereas you're talking about a medium like VRChat, where the pages are it's like a choose-your-own-adventure type of thing.
Yeah, but with
That's what
millions
yours
and
looks
millions
like
of different choices, every choice there's a million different ones.
Which exactly. So I mean, it goes back to it. It's not. It's to me, this is a video game. It's at most, if you want to go above that, I would say a social interactive simulator. But I'm not going above that. I'm not going to call it anything other than what it is.
I strongly
I think it's
believe that VRChat, well, programmatically, it is a game. It is made on a game engine.
By definition, it's a game. Can we agree on that?
Yes,
by definition.
By definition, because it is a program and it is listed on Steam, it is a game.
Right.
And it runs as though it is a game. But the interactions, everything that happens within VRChat is not a game. It's social. It's so much more than a game. It's nowhere near like anything else.
Which is why I said earlier, I'm willing to go above that and say it's a social interactive simulator. And that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not going any higher than that.
It's really not even a simulation, though, because a simulation assumes
it is a
that
simulator.
There's players and there's non-players, and you're doing something, simulating something, but you're not really simulating anything in VRChat. You are there. You are in a virtual body. I would not label VRChat as a simulation in any way, shape, or form.
I think this is a simulation because of the fact that it's just like, I'm not seeing you IRL. I'm seeing what is a digital projection of you, how you want to be seen.
Okay, then in that case, every single chat app is a simulation because you're not seeing me IRL. You're seeing a picture of whatever I felt like putting as my profile.
Exactly. I mean,
yes.
At the end of the day, it's all avatars. It comes down to avatars.
So now literally everything online is a simulation, and that's where that breaks down, and that's why I don't believe VRChat is a simulation. Because a simulation, to me, is you are doing something that you wouldn't normally be doing, like farming simulator. You are simulating farming. In VRChat, what are you? You're not simulating anything. You simply are doing things. You're not simulating it unless you go to a simulator world where you're cutting grass or shooting guns, whatever. But those are experiences within VRChat. VRChat as a whole is not a simulation.
Okay, can I put my 2 cents in here?
Go ahead, Vampy.
And then we can move on.
There's one thing that I have to say about this is, yes, you talk to a person, but you have to think about this. Not everyone acts the same online as they do in real life. There will be differences. There might be slight differences. There might be major differences. That's why I can agree with him on the simulation part, because you don't always act like yourself.
But for it to be a simulation, you have to be doing something. Just talking to someone is not a simulation. Talking to someone and conversing and hanging out with people. Going to a bar, if I'm wearing a freaking maid outfit, that's not a simulation.
Okay, then
going to a bar in VRChat, that's not a simulation. Like, that's exactly what it's not even a game, though. It's a social interactive experience.
Okay,
it's not a game. It's not a simulation. It's
agree with that part then. Being experienced.
The VRChat is something completely its own. I don't think there is a word to really describe it in just a single word yet.
I think the one word that I have, and I've settled on this, and I'm not changing it. It's game. G-A-M-E, game. That's what it is. I mean, that's the base. That is the foundation of this whole thing. That's what you have to understand. Now, everything else above it, yes, there are layers, and a lot of them are cloudy. Some of them are thin. Some of them are thick. But at the end of the day, you got to look at what's at the bedrock, dude. The bedrock is the video game.
Yes. Yeah, yes. Okay, then literally every single website, Facebook, Twitter, they're just a website.
No,
they're not a social platform. They're a website.
No, there's a difference between it because of the fact that VRChat doesn't function like Twitter or Facebook.
You look at a website, you look at a game, and you describe what type of thing it is.
You're talking about
You don't look
systematic
at
function
Twitter
at
and
this
say
point.
it's just a website.
That's entirely a different ball of wax, dude.
We should get
It is
back
Systematic
on.
function
not.
doesn't apply here. Yes, it does. You're talking about it as if you're a developer, not as if you're a player.
No,
At this
if you
point,
You're
look
a
at
player
Twitter,
right
you're
now.
not like
we
Twitter's a
should really-
website. You're like Twitter is a social website. You don't look at Twitter and say
Twitter
that's
is
a
a
website.
social media
and that's all it is.
platform. Twitter is a
Yes.
social media platform. VRChat
Exactly.
is not a social media platform. Twitter or
It
VRChat
is a social
not a social
interaction.
media. It's a social interactive simulator based on a prospect of a video game
Bringing
as a
in the
foundation.
simulator again. It is not. It is not a simulator.
Okay, well, how about we get off?
We've
of
gone
this
over that.
subject, Then. All right, all
Right,
right.
if
we
it's
went
not a
through that,
simulator,
let's-
then the blade he's holding in his hand is real.
All right, all right, all right. Both of you, calm down. Let's.
Okay.
So, as
I'm
we
just
were saying,
telling
let's
you,
get
bro.
back on track here.
VRChat.
Yeah,
What I'm
we'll
saying
put you
is,
two-
as a whole, VRChat is
You know
not a
what? How
simulator.
about, how,
Certain
how about
aspects
this?
of it
Why don't
might
we
be.
leave this debate for another session?
We can, you
No.
know what? We
Make it a whole.
Closing arguments, please.
all right. We can close on. Well, you know what? I'll close on this one. Okay. All right. I understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're trying to say. My whole issue is the fact that it's just like right now.
I
I
read.
saw a tweet today. I saw a tweet that absolutely upset me today because people are right now trying to implement currency to allow people to buy tickets. Buy like a VR currency. Think about that for a second. People are trying to make virtual reality, like you're buying, like you have to have real money in the game to buy tickets to something that should be for free if you're playing a free game. And yet it's just
but-
like, okay, they're trying to make virtual reality just like real reality. Why? Because these people are the same type of people who don't want to leave virtual reality because they can't accept the
okay.
actual reality. They cannot accept it. These people cannot distinguish between the two. We're talking about two different groups here. That
You're way
absolutely
off.
drives me insane.
Charging for an experience within VR is 100% totally acceptable. Because someone had to spend time themselves to create that experience for other people. So charging for it, 100% reasonable.
Who determines the
Especially if they
market
spent
value?
months.
Who
The people
determines the
willing
market
to pay
value?
for it. The people,
So-
just the same as anyone else determines the value of anything else. If you look at something and say, this is $20 and it is worth $20 or more, I'm going to buy it. Or you look at it and say, it's listed at $300, I wouldn't pay more than $20 for that. I'm not going to buy it. It's just how everything works. It doesn't change because it's in VR.
It just
That's
feels to
your-
me like
what-
every.
What
go
you're
ahead.
saying,
Let's
you're
put a
you're
pin
like
on that.
people should be paying or should not be getting charged to go to a concert in VR. It should be free because it's in VR, which no, completely and totally false. If someone is taking the time out of their day to do something and they are performing, they did something, they deserve compensation for that, and they can do it for free, and a lot of people do. But
That sounds like a
if
really good subject.
if they
for
want
next
to
week.
charge for it,
Yeah,
they can charge for it.
Yeah, we can make that its
But
own
back
subject
on
of this, right?
yeah.
Yes, please, for the love of God, back on track.
No, I'm liking this conversation going off in this direction because now we're on the
Before I come
topic
over
of
there and
money.
punt you both.
We're on the topic of money now, and think of that: money and mental health, very
Yeah.
closely tied together for a lot of people. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really interesting. There's actually a strange tie where you have no money, your mental health is statistically lower. You're going to have more mental health problems if you don't have the money to survive. Once you hit that peak of I have just enough money to survive and do a couple fun things a year, your mental health is at its peak. It's at its best, statistically. But once you get into the having millions and millions of dollars, having more money than most people could spend their lifetime, a lot of the times their mental health drops off and gets worse because of the social pressure for them to do certain things. So like
I
money
find that to
really
be
is a big, it's really not.
No.
There's exceptions.
No. I find it to be bullshit that people who have money should be pressured into doing anything.
It's not that they should be, it's that they are, because there's always a portion of the population that's going to say, you have $1 million, this person has no money and needs to be fed, why aren't you doing that?
Yeah.
There's always going to be those people.
Speaking as a poor person, I would never push someone to do that.
Yeah.
Like, if they want to do that, that's their call.
The problem with that is, there's two examples. One would be Mr. Beast, and the other is your generic person who tries to do whatever you could consider a giveaway. Mr. Beast is honest about it and says, yeah, and give them the money. If they don't want the actual prize, like the car or whatever, I'll sell it, I'll pay the taxes, and then I'll give them that prize money. And the other side is they'll do this whole giveaway thing and then take it back after the video.
Yeah.
There's very few from that I've seen that do that, because they'll do that and then take it back. But legally, if they're doing a giveaway or something, they can't do that. So it has to then be staged, and people find out about those things pretty freaking quick. Those channels don't go anywhere.
I'm just saying,
those people they do it 5-10 times and then they're gone. So
I know, but they still made money off of things like that. But
nowhere near as much as it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing something and faking it, you're gonna get a lot less money by the end of it than if you did it for real.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's the issue with pressure on people who have money. So like that's why
I don't think that is at all.
That's why I believe a lot of
it's a completely different issue.
That's why I think a lot of people who are in the higher tax brackets don't want to show their. Okay.
Hit a button.
Okay. That's why. That's why I believe a lot of people in the higher tax brackets tend not to show their taxes, because then it shows people exactly how much money they have to be pressured. You're talking two completely different scenarios and situations here. You're talking people that don't have money and want people to give them money, so they fake things, they fake giving away money to people so that they get money. I'm talking about the people that have money, the people that have millions, billions of dollars. No, there's people like
society
that too,
pressures them to do
as a show, and that's the issue. If they just do it as a show,
but
I don't mean
it's not
that's
people. It's not people pressuring those people into doing those things. And that's not going to be a problem. If people pressure Elon Musk into giving away $1 million, he's not going to fake giving away $1 million. He can't.
Yeah, no.
YouTubers, definitely, if they don't have $1 million, they can fake giving away $1 million. They can fake that they have $1 million and gave away $1 million. But Elon Musk and the people that I'm talking about, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it, and it can't be faked.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So you were drawing a completely and totally different topic off of what I was saying there, and trying to rebuttal me saying that there is societal pressure on it with, it shouldn't be, because these other people that are completely unrelated to this do this horrible thing. And that's nowhere near what I was talking about at all. There is societal pressure in a lot of circumstances.
Societal pressure causes people to do things like that.
No, it doesn't.
Let me finish. Because they want to be seen as...
Greed causes people to do that. Societal pressure has nothing to do with that.
And one of the things greed comes from is the wanting to be seen as wealthy. Well, this
speaking
goes
about
into the
mental health,
that's right.
Yeah, back to mental health, please.
But we were talking about it on the fact that money causes both great and bad things with it, and
but we got out
VRChat.
VR
I was trying to get back to the VRChat side of that, in how the people that don't have a lot of money in VRChat, they can't buy avatars, and most people don't know how the hell to make an avatar in the first place. So those people get looked at like, hey, you're just using public avatars. People do legitimately look and say, ew, that's a public avatar. That's disgusting. You need to pay for an avatar before you're on my level. And that's a pretty shitty thing. And it makes a lot of people just that don't have the money, it puts them down and pushes them down and makes them feel even worse.
Yep.
And that's what I was tying all that into.
I was one of those people at one point, and then I decided I'll just save up a little.
Yeah, I chose to make my own stuff, figure it out myself, and make my stuff because I might have the money to spend on avatars, but I see no reason to. I don't spend money on things that don't need money to be spent on.
I didn't have the skills or know-how, but I knew after a couple of weeks I could save up enough money, and I got this. So.
What the fuck was that noise?
I have no clue.
That was probably me moving my mic. That was probably me moving my mic arm.
That was either you doing something, but I swear I felt it in real life.
I thought I did too.
I thought a door opened or something.
Maybe it was
Eddie's fucking sucking and just throwing shit around at y'all's rooms.
I'm wondering if a semi hit the spot.
Get involved in this conversation too. Let them on.
I wonder if a semi hit the spot in the road where it drops 2 inches because the city doesn't want to do anything about it.
I have to talk to you about that after the podcast. By the way.
Oh boy.
Okay.
This boy made a city complaint. He's filing a lawsuit. Get ready.
We're about to see him on the news.
No, but I can see how people like that don't have VR or Quest users, or even people who don't have custom avatars, could possibly start to feel down or depressed when other users that flaunt their money, flaunt their avatars, or flaunt full body, and are just like,
shit on.
I guess yeah, exactly. I tell everybody, I'm in full body because I paid for it. I'm going to use it. I'm not trying to flex on anybody at all.
Exactly.
You work with what you have. For my first couple months of playing VR, I was a desktop mute. I couldn't communicate with anybody, and this was before they had the chat box. So I couldn't communicate with anybody. I could answer yes and no. That was it.
Hold up.
Yeah, and I got shit on
like
for
that
that
at one point too. For a good month or two, I was, and mostly that was because one of the first interactions I had was someone blocking me because my name was so similar to someone else who was apparently a total dickhead that they just blocked me right off the bat. So I just said no.
Yeah, I had somebody walk up to me at the Great Pug my first day in VRChat and say, "Hey, you got a mic?" I shook my head no, and they said, "Do you have VR?" And I shook my head no, and they immediately said, "Why are you playing this then?" And then walked away from me. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay, I guess tomorrow I'm going to
because there
Walmart
are
or
more
Target."
people that aren't you that won't give a damn.
People are dicks.
Oh yeah. I could just see how how some people would get depressed about being called that. If they get treated like trash most of their life, and then they go to VR for an escape, and then it happens in VR, it's not helping at all. Their mental state.
That's gonna definitely be a detriment. So, let's just wrap things up here with an overview again. VRChat. Overall, what do you guys think VRChat is a positive for people that are struggling mentally, or
I would
a
say
negative?
Overall, it would help, so long as they don't rely on it too much,
Yes.
And don't fall into an addiction.
Yeah,
exactly.
I was in an addictive state at one point, and then I just dropped it. And I wasn't feeling the best when I was addicted. I feel better whenever I hop on here, because it's like, hey, it helps me here and there where I actually need it, instead of being a permanent part of my life.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
believe,
I definitely have an addiction to VRChat.
I believe
sure?
it's in moderation. If you use VRChat in moderation and as well as keep a non-toxic company, like good friends, people who support you, people who aren't going to degrade you in any manner. I mean, yeah, VRChat could be a great place.
Yeah.
But
and if
you
you're in
just
public
can't get
lobbies,
addicted
take
to
everything everyone says with a grain of salt.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
It
somebody who gets
definitely-
Maybe a
offended
cup
or
of
depressed
salt.
very quickly, cup of salt.
Definitely need to have the ability to disconnect from the situations and know when to leave the world. If you don't know when to step back and disconnect and find new people, then you're not going to have a great time.
Exactly.
Especially with how toxic public worlds are in VRChat now. And where can you meet new friends in VRChat? Your first friend, guaranteed, you have to meet in public world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be somebody's friend.
Unless
I
you
don't
know
care.
someone outside of VRChat. Yeah, I go to public worlds and I make friends with visitors all the time, as long as they're not running around screaming and being like horribly annoying. I'll sit down and talk to them, be like, hey, how long you been playing, you know? And I'll get them to stay in VRChat. A lot of people that like really could benefit from VRChat, they get on, go to a public world, see how horrible it is, and then they leave and never come back.
Well, and before we wrap up, it's not just Black Cats and Great Pugs. There are also games you can play to loosen up where if you don't want to talk to somebody immediately, like Murder. I play Murder, and there are people who don't talk. And then five rounds later, they're nothing but a chat box. They can't stop talking about how cool it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
my thing is, I don't want VRChat to become something that everyone has to rely on in terms of like mental, like like basically like empty all of their thoughts out. You know, I don't want it to be I don't want it to be a garbage disposal of mental health. That's what I don't want it to be, which is what it feels like it's become over the course of the past several, the past few years. That's what it feels like. Because just a minor story, I remember meeting a person. I was in a Friends Plus talking to a friend, and this one girl says she has very high levels of anxiety, very antisocial, very stuff like that. And I ask, well, what are you doing to help that? She says nothing. I come on this game the entire time, and I said, you're not talking to a therapist? You're not? She's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, why not? I mean, is it about money or is it about health insurance? And she's like, no, I've got money, I've got health insurance, I just don't want to. Like, there are people in this game that don't want to help themselves.
Then you're part of the problem.
So, I will say this as we're wrapping up here, and there's one last thing I want to say.
We shouldn't wrap up yet.
If I need to.
That's.
Yeah.
But
we definitely need to do a part 2 of this then, because I feel like we barely scratched the fucking surface.
If you are struggling, if you really just, even if you just don't have someone to talk to, if you can afford $100, $200 one time, I highly suggest talking to a therapist just for a month. 4 times, 6 times, whatever. If you can afford it, even if you don't think you need someone to talk to, it's worth it, I would say.
Yeah.
I would rather the person talk to somebody who's qualified and actually trained in this type of stuff than someone on VRChat, because I promise you, no one on this game, not me, no one in this lobby is qualified to talk to someone with mental health issues. I promise you that.
Yeah.
There is one person that I met in VRChat years
that
ago.
frequent my stuff are watching, I am not a therapist. Please do not treat me like one.
I mean,
am
if
a
you want
friend.
to talk to me about
I am
things,
not
I
a
can
medical
tell
professional.
you a layman's perspective, but that would be it. Like, that's the only way
But
I see it.
in certain circumstances, that's a really bad and really detrimental.
Oh yeah.
To those situations. But
Probably
anyway,
most.
we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here because, yeah. So this has been episode 19, and I already have the topic picked out for next week on March 28th at 6 p.m. Central Time here on Twitch. Next week's topic is going to be, if you could go back to any point in your life and change something about it, would you? And what would you change?
A non-VR topic.
I have a few.
I'm shocked.
God damn it.
It is a VR topic.
I have one.
For me, because that topic came to me while I was thinking, like, if I could go back to the early days of VRChat when I first got on, what would I do differently? What would I change? So pretty much, if you could go back to the first day you were on VRChat, what could you change? What would you change? What would you do different?
Quick answer from me. Nothing.
You would do anything.
I wouldn't have met your dumbass.
Yeah. If you would do anything between then and now, what would you change? That's what next week's topic is going to be. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Follow the channel.
Oh, Circuit,
help us out. And we're going to go ahead and start with Stealth on where you can find him.
Cirque.
After circuitry.
We'll get to that.
What am I going to have him? We'll get to that.
Okay.
So, go ahead,
All
Stealth.
right, fine.
Where
First of
anyone
all,
can
fuck
find
you.
you.
Second of all, y'all can find me at twitch.tv/DeltaFox. I exist. That's it.
Yeah.
Vampy.
I've got to get a new PC before I can, but when I get back to streaming, it'll be on Sir_Bloodworth, and I might get enough storage so I can start doing YouTube again, and that will be under Vampy1001 unless I make a whole new account at this point, which I'm not sure about. So yeah.
Okay. And Circuitry, do your thing.
You can find me on all social platforms, SYRKATRII. I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on TikTok, fuck those websites. But I am going to be doing a very special live stream on YouTube on Monday, March 25th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for my birthday. So if you want to come over there... Yes. So if you want to come over there, say hello, you can. Otherwise, every other time you see me, I'm streaming on Rumble.
Okay. And did you have a comment idea?
Yes, I do have a comment idea.
You know what? I think it would be tie into next week's topic. Or actually, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh God!
Go ahead.
Whatever you want. I don't care. Anything.
Okay,
we
just
can actually
send an invite request.
I don't know. Really?
Yes.
Do anything you want there.
I will accept even though we're finished.
I was gonna say my thing would be, why do you play VRChat? Let us know in the comments. Is it for social interaction? Is it for playing the games? Is it for fun? Is it to get away from reality? Let us know in the comments. That would be my
adding into that.
thing.
Adding into that, if you don't play VRChat, why not?
Oh, Cobra's here.
Pretty simple.
That would be interesting.
But,
tail end too.
So, anyway, this has been the Beyond Pixels podcast every Thursday now at 6 p.m. Central Time. We're on twitch.tv/turtle01, and you can find all of the previous...
I found it first try! Get fucked!
We do our thing, and now there's suddenly a Cobra in the camera.
We're so sorry, Ken, if you just got an earful of Cobra.
Sorry. Is this the chat?
The myth, the legend.
That is the camera, yes, but you have poor timing. We're wrapping up.
Why does the camera glow and have massive titties? I'm not. I mean, this is okay with me, but